Hello and welcome back to the Wrestling Group. I'm your host, as always, Ryan, and today we're going to be taking a look at the current landscape of the WWE Tag Team division and how they could make it better. So WWE's Tag division has always been pretty much up and down. It's on point for a very short amount of time and then it goes stale for the most part. Right now, it's not on point. The Raw division is basically, we don't know what to do. So we'll just give the titles to the Judgment Day again. And SmackDown's division is better, but it's not exactly hard for it to be better than Raw's. So today I will look at ways to make the division better. And at the end, of course, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below and drop me any of your ideas and suggestions of how to improve WWE's tag team division. So first off, for me, they have two poor divisions as they could have one mega division. Now, the brand separation isn't really a thing anymore. We see superstars on Raw and SmackDown in the same week all of the time. So for me, you're going to have to scrap that and make one division that can be on either show. That way you don't need to fill them with a lot of, made up tag teams. We do get some, really good ones that work together that are just put together, like obviously the Bar from a good few years back, of course. If you haven't seen my Bar video yet, go back and watch that. But, then we get so many tag teams that end up being like the Miz and Carmelo Hayes, which is just random and pretty pointless, to be fair. Secondly, get rid of half of the teams and change some of the others up. So, like, put obviously Penta and Rey Fenix together. The Lucha Brothers are an absolute phenomenal tag team, one of my favourites of all time. Penta came in on his own and made an impact straight away. And then he got to the Fatal 4-Way at WrestleMania for the Intercontinental Championship. Since then, he's pretty much been standstill. He's been pretty stale in terms of what's next. And then you had Fenix, obviously, on the other hand, came in with a lot less buzz. Didn't do too much, and then just till recently was teaming with Andrade. Obviously, he's just left the company, Andrade, so that team isn't together anymore. You also have obviously the likes of Tama Tonga and Tonga Loa, which of course goes by the Gorillas of Destiny in New Japan and Ring of Honor. They're in the Bloodline storyline. What we on now? Bloodline 5, 6, 7.0, some crap like that. So get them out on their own as a tag team. They were very, very successful as a team in New Japan Pro Wrestling. So just use that. They're already a team. Use them as a team. For me, I would split up the Judgment Day. The money for me in WWE out of the Judgment Day is the Dominic and Liv storyline. No one's really bothered about the other members, and Finn Balor, like, for the love of God, needs to go into the heavyweight division. Stop mincing around in the tag teams. It makes no sense. He's one of the best in-ring talents that WWE has, but they don't do anything with him. And just put JD McDonough back in the NXT. So in fact, the division I would use from now on, I'll give you my team list. This is what I would use for the single division. Like I say, if they scrap the two divisions and the two titles, just make one generic championship, one tag division, and these are the teams that I would go with for that division. So I would start obviously with, like I said before, the Lucha Brothers. They have a great history together. They've won tag team titles and obviously AEW, Impact, AAA, etc. You could even use them in the crossover of AAA and the pay-per-views. Obviously, they've been doing really well with the crossover pay-per-views, like the likes of Worlds Collide. I mean, these could easily hold both titles at the same time. Like I say, one of my favourite tag teams of all time. So it's time to get them back together. Like I said as well before, Gorillas Destiny. For those of you who don't know who that is, it's Tama Tonga and Tonga Loa. Go back to the old gimmick, use the war paint for the big matches, etc. They are, of course, former 7-time IWGP Tag Team Champions, and they don't tend to do a lot. in WWE. Obviously, like I say, they're involved in the Bloodline storyline, and Tama Tonga just goes for some strange fucking reason. I have no idea why. Then you've got Motor City Machine Guns. So when obviously WWE signed Motor City Machine Guns, I expected them to push on and build the whole division around them. You know, I wasn't exactly, I wouldn't say, excited by the prospect of Motor City Machine Guns going into WWE, because obviously I know, you know, WWE isn't massive on tag teams, but I was excited at the fact that, you know, they're going to be on the latest game, and, you know, we're going to start getting wrestling figures and stuff. So that side of it, I was excited for. You know, I'd like to own Motor City Machine Gun figures. Hopefully they will come out soon and I'll be able to buy them. Instead, they quickly put the belts on them and then took them back off them again, and now they're just sort of floating around, not doing too much. Again, multiple-time tag team champions in Ring of Honor and TNA, and again, another one of my favourite tag teams of all time. Then we have the War Raiders, so I think you need to strip back on the Viking stuff. It's far too gimmicky. You know, on the indies, you know, they were like animals. You know, they should be intimidating and not goofy. And, you know, since the main roster call-up, they've been pretty goofy. And I don't know, the whole Valhalla thing as well was a bit daft. It's too cartoony for me. You know, like say when these were doing, like, obviously Ring of Honor, New Japan, WCPW, you know, they were seen as this big dominant tag team that'll just run through you. But we need that back. DIY, now I love both of these as a team. They haven't captured the same lightning in a bottle as they did when they teamed together originally in NXT, but DIY can always put on banger matches anytime. They're very, very reliable, and of course, they are actually together at the moment in WWE, so there's not too much that you need to do with that. Just give them more time. At Fraction, I really like these two as a team. You know, they've probably been the best and the most consistent team in WWE over probably the last 2 years, maybe. Anytime their names are listed, I do actually want to go and check them out. So therefore, you know, give them a good push on the main roster. Rey Mysterio and Dragon Lee. So drop the LWO gimmick and the other team members and just focus on these two as a tag team. Dragon Lee has been very up and down since coming into WWE, and of course we have seen that his contract is up in a couple of months, so it obviously depend on whether he was going to re-sign or whether he was going to return back to AEW. And Ray could use a partner now, so, you know, he doesn't have to do all the work himself during the matches. You know, obviously he is getting on now and he is going to be looking at retirement in the next couple of years, but going into tag team wrestling for a little while, you know, we've seen him have great tag teams before with the likes of Eddie Guerrero and RVD, so why not do Rey Mysterio and Dragon Lee? I really like these two, and I'd like to say drop the rest of the LWO. Not a fan of it, but I'd be quite happy to watch Rey Mysterio and Dragon Lee tag team together. New Day, one of the best WWE tag teams probably in history. I enjoyed when they turned heel and became more edgy, but we're getting close to it being stale now. A refresh of the tag division and opponents could really help them out, you know, basically staying as a top team. Then you've got New Catch Republic. So obviously that is Pete Dunne and Tyler Bates, but for me, change the name. It's awful. Never liked it. Never been a fan of it. Just doesn't catch, if you like. But I am a fan of both Pete Dunne and Tyler Bates. You know, Pete Dunne got lost for a long time in WWE on the main roster as Butch, you know, and did a lot of damage to his character. He has had to do a lot of damage control too himself over the past year, obviously going to the likes of GCW and wrestling that old style that he used to wrestle before, getting his name back out there as Pete Dunne once again. And Tyler Bates, you know, once looked like the most promising thing in NXT UK, has been lost on the main roster, unfortunately. Give them a rename, a repackage, and then push them to the moon. I still think the two of the best workers in that WWE has. Definitely the two best that come from NXT UK in terms of the males division. Obviously the female, we had Rhea Ripley. And then the last one is the Usos. You know, they had the fun as singles for a bit. You know, obviously they are teaming back together again, as we've seen. They're going to be teaming against Bron Breakker and Bronson Reed for WWE WrestlePalooza this weekend. So that's it. Put them back as a tag team full time. They had fun in the singles division. Well, Jay did. Jimmy, not so much. Jimmy hasn't won the title, but Jay won. Was it the US and the world? Was the IC? It was the IC, wasn't it? The IC in the world title. But obviously, again, one of the best, if not the best, tag team WWE, especially over the last 10 to 20 years, and should be put back together as probably the face of the division. To start with, at least, you know what I mean? I'd even put them back as being heels. The Uso Penitentiary was fantastic. Definitely one of my favourite tag teams to ever come from WWE. They're up there with the likes of the Hardy Boys for me. Hardy's obviously been my all-time favourite tag teams. Saying that, I wouldn't put Hardys in this. I think they are suited to TNA as they approach retirement. We don't need to see the Hardys do another run in WWE. We need to knock on the head these nostalgic runs that they love doing far too much. Like, I don't care about AJ Lee. So yeah, for me, they're the 10 teams that I would pick. If there's anyone that you feel like I've missed off or any that you wouldn't use, let me know in the comment section below. They need more matches, more time in the matches, and better storylines. There's 5 to 6 matches on a pay-per-view card is hitting the division. There are far too many titles for them all to feature on the pay-per-views, so when the tag team titles are defended, for the most part, they get less than 10 minutes. Cut down the amount of adverts and backstage segments and actually give them 20 to 30 minutes of in-ring action on every pay-per-view. Most of these teams have wrestled on the indies or on the likes of, TNA, New Japan, Ring of Honor, where there is a major focus on the tag team matches and the division. We know they have it in them to put on absolute bangers when allowed to, like say, doing the 20 to 30 minute matches. That's why most of them were signed in the first place, you know what I mean? Seen WWE pick up the likes of Motor City Machine Guns and War Raids and stuff, but they haven't used them for the reason that they actually signed them for in the first place. So that is it. That's my ideas of how to make the WWE's tag division better. Make it one division. Cut a lot of the teams down, get rid of a lot of the makeshift teams. I'd have them 10 teams that I listed before, get rid of the others. Just have one set of tag titles, give them a lot more time of actual in-ring action, especially on the pay-per-views. So what do you think of my thoughts on how to improve the tag division? And let me know what your thoughts are as well. Is there anything else? Do you think there's anything messed off, or do you think maybe I'm being a bit too harsh and critical of the tag division? Are you happy with where WWE's tag division is right now? Let me know. As always, don't forget to give us a like, drop a comment, and of course, subscribe to the wrestling group today.